What's going on, everyone? This is your host, Sam, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Sip. On today's episode, we'll discuss the importance of clean water access, how it affects communities, and what political policies mean for U.S. citizens. Overall, this episode explores clean water access, environmental justice, and the difference government policies make. Water is everywhere. It's about 71% of Earth's surface. Our bodies are mostly water as well. For the average adult, it's about 60%, and for our brains, it's 75% water. So it's no surprise that clean water is absolutely essential for life, health, and survival. The U.S. Geological Survey defines safe water as, quote unquote, water that will not harm you if you come into contact with it. But sadly, for millions of people across the world, access to water that meets that standard is still a daily challenge. According to the CDC, water is, quote unquote, the most important resource for sustaining ecosystems, which provide life-supporting services for people, animals, and plants. When water is clean and accessible, entire communities benefit. It results in people that are healthier, better growing crops, and improving economies. However, when this is not the case, the consequences can be deadly and quite detrimental. Dirty water is often contaminated with untreated sewage and harmful bacteria, leading to serious diseases like chlorella, dysentery, typhoid, and hepatitis A. Around 3.5 million people die each year from water-related illnesses. Tragically, though, most of them are children under 5, and in some places, people are left with no choice but to drink water directly from these contaminated swamps and rivers. The impact goes beyond just health. Clean water is essential for farming, education, and economic opportunity. It is a key part of breaking the cycle of poverty. Water is also crucial for the environment. Healthy streams, rivers, and wetlands trap floodwaters, filter pollution, and support wildlife. And yet, before the Clean Water Rule, nearly 1 in 3 Americans got their drinking water from streams that were vulnerable to pollution. That's why environmental protections like the Clean Water Act matter. Originally passed in 1948 and expanded in 1972, the Clean Water Act gave the EPA the power to regulate pollution and protect surface water quality. Clean water touches every part of life, from what we eat and drink to where we live, work, and play. It's not just a resource, it's a human right. Earlier, we talked about how essential clean water is for life and how unsafe water can spread disease and limit opportunity. However, this is not just a global issue. It is happening right here in the United States. Right now, about 2 million people in the US do not have running water or indoor plumbing in their homes. And around 30 million more live in places where the water systems regularly break safety rules. Now, that is a serious problem, especially when we think about how much we rely on water just to live every single day. A recent study from the University of Oregon dug deep into this issue, mapping out hotspots, or what they call water injustice areas. These are areas where people are more likely to face unsafe or unreliable water. Violations were concentrated in specific counties, with the worst cases showing up in places like West Virginia, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Oklahoma. The researchers of this study created a water injustice score. They pulled together multiple data points to show where people are most at risk. And of course, the communities hit hardest were often low income, communities of color, and overall marginalized groups. Now, this problem isn't just with old pipes or poor infrastructure. In many areas, it is chemical contamination. One woman in California, named Juana Valle, moved to a 5-acre farm to live her dream. But the water from her well might be making her sick. It turns out her water tested positive for PFAS, which are known as toxic forever chemicals. They're linked to cancer, birth complications, and more. These compounds do not just stay near factories or airports anymore. They're showing up in rural farmland, people's wells, tap water, and places that are far from obvious pollution sources. In fact, PFAS contamination is becoming a major concern in farming regions, especially where biosolids, or waste from sewage treatment plants, have been spread across fields. All of this makes one thing clear, that is, access to clean water in the US is deeply unequal, and whether a water system is public or private does not automatically mean it's better or worse. What matters is how well it is regulated and maintained. Without that, people are left questioning the safety of something as basic as a glass of water from their tap. On the governmental side, the EPA recently announced $30.7 million in grants to help small and rural communities improve water quality. This funding supports operator training, lead pipe replacements, PFAS testing, cybersecurity improvements, and boosting overall system performance. Organizations like the National Rural Water Association and the Rural Community Assistance Partnership are leading these efforts to address unique challenges in these communities. Additionally, the EPA relaunched the Water Infrastructure and Capacity Assessment Tool, which helps identify water systems in need of technical support and funding, improving how resources are directed. However, these positive steps come amid significant budget cuts proposed by Congress. Over $1 billion in rural water and wastewater funding is at risk, including a nearly 20% cut to the USDA's Rural Water and Waste Disposal Assistance Program. These reductions threaten to stall or reverse progress for many small communities still struggling with aging infrastructure. Meanwhile, the EPA recently lifted its emergency order on Flint, Michigan's water crisis, citing major progress like replacing over 97% of lead pipes and meeting the Safe Drinking Water Act standards. The activists warned that problems remain, with ongoing water quality issues and incomplete pipe replacement, raising concerns about the timing of this decision and the EPA's continued accountability. On the regulatory front, a recent Supreme Court decision weakened the EPA's authority under the Clean Water Act, limiting the government's ability to enforce pollution controls, particularly around sewage dumping. This ruling, combined with ongoing political battles over environmental regulations, highlights the fragile nature of protections for America's water resources. Overall, while government grants and initiatives show commitment to improving water safety, budget cuts and legal setbacks make it clear that the fight for clean and safe water is still very important. If you're in a rural or small community, check if your water system is eligible for new EPA support. And no matter where you live, staying informed and speaking up helps keep the pressure on for safe, clean water for all. To find out how you can make a difference for clean drinking water in our communities, visit thedailysip.com and sign up for our newsletter. Once again, this is your host, Sam. Thanks for listening and catch you next week.